Hello everyone! Welcome to the third episode of Weapon Ideas, or Weapon Refinery Ideas. It's been a while since I've done an episode. 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 months, it's been forever. I want to say thank you to Joey for actually suggesting me to do this, because I absolutely forgot I had that series still going. I actually wanted to do a video for a while, but I had like nothing to work with. But here we are. So also before we start, I want to say thank you to IDCSAO. He has been generous enough to help me design two things that I had to use for this video. Also, I want to say all of this is hypothetical. This is not real, although I wish it was. But I hope my choice will make sense for those who are curious. Alright, let's start. So, Berkut is the first one, crime healed. So, you might be wondering, why is the base effect so strong and why is the refine so strong? First off, yes, it's strong. It is a pretty strong weapon. The thing is, it's Berkut that has the weapon. Just keep in mind, this is the stat comparison of a Silas compared to Berkut. And Berkut, Silas could still go Def Plus and have more defense than Berkut, especially with a Def Refine. So he still retains his niche as basically the Def tank as a Lance unit. But Berkut gains a niche as a mixed tank unit. So this actually lets him carve himself a niche. And honestly, they kind of have to make GHB and Tempest Trial unit, especially now that they are basically marketing Aether Raid by telling you, oh yeah, we got blessings that boost your lift scoring if you use, you know, a unit with the right blessing, with the right unit to get the buff and everything. Just kind of like how blessing ruined the arena, this is also kind of ruining the mode. So essentially what ends up happening is spend so you can get more points, but the thing is score so you can get... If the characters themselves are not great, what's the point of doing this, you know? But yeah, so it is a free-to-play unit, yes, but it still takes 6 months of fucking effort to get to plus 10, so do keep that in mind. So, first off, the base effect is based on the Def and Res plus 5 from Crime Healed, obviously. So I wanted to do this, but at the same time I was like, I have to restrain that to either melee only or distant only until I realized I could just do, well, Fortress Def Res 2, or sorry, Fortress Def Res 3. So this is what I did as an example. As for the refine itself, if foe uses magic, staff, or dragonstone, I use the wording of Water Sweep. Grants 50% damage reduction against foe's first attack. I use Divine Turfing. And unit can counter attack regardless of foe's range. I used Golden Dagger's wording. So essentially what this is if the foe is using magic or staves, I get DC. If they're using bows or daggers, I can't hit back, I'm a sitting duck. This is so we can become more or less a mage tank. And also, you could also argue going full on his speed, darting stance, life and death, ores buffs, plus 10. That's a solid plus 21 speed. You're sitting at 43 speed, and that's without drive speeds, which would mean that you actually would be able to prevent the second hit in most cases, which actually makes your bulk much better as a whole, because the first hit anyway gets a 50% damage reduction. This is just an example beyond a few of them. The point is to make him a mixed tank so he can actually deal with magic despite his res being lower than his defense. So yeah, it's a pretty simple refine, but it's pretty potent, and well, it's also really strong. Do keep in mind, if you're planning on hitting his res and not losing any damage, Sorcery Blade, Felicious Plate, both of those weapons or effect in Sorcery Blade's case will just go straight to his res and he won't be able to reduce any points of damage because it's not magic. Obviously, the refine is based on Phantasm. I use the icon for Phantasm for the icon for Crime Healed. So yeah, basic refine. Also, I do want to point out, before someone asks, Crime Healed should only be used by Fallen Berkut. That is right, but there is two versions of Crime Healed, which is why I have, you know, this. You could just use the one at the bottom instead of the one at the top. The one at the top would be Fallen Berkut and could even be a different weapon altogether, kind of like how Berserk Armats is completely different from Armats. Whereas the base version would be the one that he, well, the base version, the version at the bottom would be the one he's using. I'm pretty sure it's basically the same weapon, just like one from the view of front and one from the view of behind. But I feel like you can actually make them two different weapons like this, and it still works out pretty well. This is a pretty basic refine, honestly. There's not much to it, except essentially making him a mixed tank. So let's move on. This time to Tobin. Whoops. There we go. So, Ill Wound. For those who don't know, this is a weapon you can make from upgrading, I believe, a Shadow Sword. Heal Wound gives you 3 skills. Wrath Strike is something you learn from, well, Iron Sword and Ill Wound. I decided to make that just straight up Wrath, which would be the refine. And Death Blow is, well, basically FE6 Death Blow, but on top of it you get a Armor Killer effect. So essentially I made it an Armor Killer with DB3. Again, this is a very potent weapon if it was used on anyone but Tobin. Tobin doesn't exactly have a whole lot of speed, but you can build on it. The thing is, if you really want to make full use of that weapon, you kind of have to run life and death, which means you have to kill some of your bulk. So, it's kind of iffy, but at the same time it gives you room for improvement. 36 speed with life and death is not bad. If you have some speed tactic, that's 42 speed. And it kind of just fixes most of this problem, which, you know. Do keep in mind, 36 speed is at plus 10. At plus 10, he's going to hit 62 attack when initiating, which is pretty good. But it's not on every phase, which is the main thing that makes it pretty okay. See, Lilina's refine, a lot of people consider DB3 to be a really good refine, and it works for a mage. The reason why I went out of my way to actually give this kind of refine to Tobin, however, is first off, no IVs, 2 hits defense. Now, Bartre has a very similar kind of refine, except he doesn't get the DB3, and the refine itself is just Fury. But Fury actually gives him enough speed, and the fact that he can get IVs to buff on that speed means that he can actually gain a lot more than just 3 attack. Whereas here you only gain 6 attack and you will your speed will still be rather shaky. Still, you can actually use this pretty well. The thing that makes it less threatening is since it's just, you know, Wrath, you get 1 charge. This is not a slaying weapon, so you don't charge any special whatsoever with that 1 charge. That's the problem you run into. But you can run this in tandem with skills such as Soul and Heavy Blade to charge the special a bit quicker and gain more HP out of it, which is definitely not bad. Bonfire is also a good option. You can actually charge it up. The main reason why I gave Ill Wound to him is because, well, first off, he comes with Armor Slayer. It only makes sense considering the look of this weapon. But also just because thematically speaking, well, not thematically speaking, but utility speaking, Wrath is really good on any unit with a bit of bulk. If a unit doesn't have bulk, Wrath tends to lose a lot of its use. Case in point, Carla versus Ira. Carla is a good unit, like a pretty solid unit, but completely inferior to Ira as a Wrath user, because Ira can abuse her bulk, combo it into Brazens, and have enough bulk to actually abuse it for a long period of time and stay alive for multiple fights in a row. This is how important bulk is. Now, Tobin is completely inferior to Joshua stat spread wise. I did not actually add the screenshot, sadly, but yeah. For the most part, Joshua essentially just has the same mixed bulk. A bit less defense, a bit less HP, but a whole lot more res. And more speed. So I kind of wanted him to have a niche as an armor killer, but also able to use Wrath and such skills. I don't know what I'll do with Joshua down the line. We'll see if I continue this series. If people really like this series, I might continue it, obviously. If you're curious about how I went to go through every characters in more details, I am going to leave my Twitch in the description, because whenever I work on a video, I work on it on Twitch. I stream everything I do, because at the same time it helps me a bit to brainstorm. It helps me also passing stuff around with people, so I have somewhat of an idea how people feel about skills and such. So it's just the ideal thing for me. But yeah, I believe that's all I had to say. Let's move on. Next up is Marisa. Now, Shamshir, before someone tells me, I am very well aware that Wodao and Shamshir are the same weapon. But, and yeah, this is completely true. It's basically the same effect as a Wodao 100%, word for word. And it's treated the same, but I feel like the name itself is unique enough to be used as a weapon. And she's always shown with a Shamshir anyway. Obviously, I'm basing the Shamshir's design on this type of weapon. This has been drawn by Q-Boon. This is obviously the cipher card Marisa has. But yes, this would be what kind of sword she would end up having. As for the weapon itself, it's obviously a Wodao. What a surprise. It's a legendary Wodao. The refine itself, I decided to just go for something pretty simple. Same refine as Tobin, actually. A Wrath refine. The reason why I went for that kind of refine is, well, there's not much you can do with a Wodao. The only other thing I could have think of doing for her would have been a Brazen. But I feel like you have an A slot for that, so it's kind of overkill at that point. I guess Brazen Attack Speed could have also been a pretty solid option, so you can run Brazen Attack Death as the A slot. But as is, Wrath feels a bit better because you can run a few more skills. To give you an example, you can run Noontime. You'll have upward to 30 true damage on top of it. Because if you run Wrath, Shamshir, and, well, The Refine of Shamshir, that's 30 damage if you're under 75% health. So this is a massive damage boost, but also since you're using, well, say heals, you can maintain your HP that way. Though if you want to stay in Wrath range, which is completely understandable, Moonbow might be a better option. This is more meant to be a very high damage dealing hit rather than a hit, get a hit, proc again type of weapon as Fur has. The whole point behind it is her bulk is a bit shaky, but at the same time she kind of needs the damage because her attack is lackluster, to say the least. 30 attack is not great. Even with a pref at plus 10, she has less attack than a Slaying Edge Ira. Let that sink in. So I wanted to go for an for just kind of an explosive type of damage dealing, which is just what I did here. It's also kind of funny how people thought that it would be our pref, because there are actually 2 characters in Sacred Stones that start with a Shamshir, not just Marisa. I found that out when I was actually digging up things, but you essentially have Marisa that comes with it, and the other character is post-game, so obviously most people don't know about it. It's Ismaire. You know, Joshua's mother, the MILF herself, is a Swordmaster. She comes with Shamshir as well. The more you know. But, yeah. Let's move on to probably my favorite Refine. Which is Finn. I mean, if IS is not going to give him justice he deserves, I'm going to actually do it myself. So, the design, I'm going to be basing it on this lens particularly, like the art design. Either this or his attacking art in Fire Emblem. Obviously, both of them works pretty well. So, essentially in Trachea it came down with a Brave Lance. Now, I can't call it Hero Lance, which used to be the name that it was called it, because it uses the very same kanjis that Brave Lance has. So, from a Japanese standpoint, it would just literally be called the same thing as his base weapon, just without the plus, and that would be considered a pref. So it wouldn't work too good. So instead, I just called it Finn's Lance. Obviously, there's not much else I can do. Now, you might be wondering, why is it a cooldown -1 lens? Well, there's 2 reasons. First off, his speed is one of the defining stats he has. 33 speed is really good and very easy to work with. So making that a Brave Lens straight up would be a -5 speed, which would be actually a big detriment to him as a unit. So instead what I did is a cooldown -1, because he comes with +10 luck in the weapon and +10% crit. Yes, this is a brave weapon with crit rate and 16 might. There's a reason why Finn is literally one of the best unit of Theorycrafting. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, so it's unique to Finn. So obviously it can definitely be used as a base for the pref. So cooldown -1 to be representing the luck and crit. Now, I did make a brave effect as the Refine, but there's a good catch to it. I'm going to lay down some very basic Theorycrafting spoiler. I can't fucking speak for shit. But Finn as a character is Okay, how can I do this without spoiling as much as I can? Okay, so essentially, Finn runs away with Leaf and Nana to protect them. Well, I guess the cipher art kind of gives that away, but he spends the next, I'd say 15 years basically protecting the two of them. So the whole point of the effect is to be like, if you're adjacent to a sword or staff, basing this on Leaf and Nana, he's going to get a boost and be able to quad. Now I made sure to be adjacent rather than too square apart, because otherwise Finn would be a bit too strong. But the way you can look at it is very simple. Just look at it as Finn sees Leaf or Nana in danger, and he gets a boost, he gets a rush of adrenaline, and basically protects both Leaf and Nana. That's kind of the basis I went with for the weapon. The reason why I made sure it was adjacent to a sword or a staff also is so he doesn't always have the quad. If he doesn't have a sword or a staff next to him, it's just a slaying weapon with plus 3 HP essentially. But if you're using him defensively to protect Leaf and Nana, which is kind of the whole point of his character is him pledging his entire life to protect Leaf and Nana essentially. So him staying close by to Leaf and Nana only makes sense. Him going away to just fuck shit up, well, that does kind of make less sense, doesn't it? That's the kind of point I went with here. So he's kind of stuck staying around a sword or a staff, aka Leaf or Nana, without having much recourse of going on the offensive. He can still be good in the offensive, but he's obviously going to be less powerful. This is as balanced as I could make a slaying brave weapon. But yeah, thematically speaking, this is probably my favorite one. That's the one I taught the most, that I put the most thoughts in, because I'll be completely honest, Finn is probably the character I want to see get a weapon and a refine the most out of literally any of those units. Sadly, I don't expect IS to come up with something this imaginative. It's probably gonna be something like, ooh, sword staff gets bond, haha. Aha. No. No, stop. But yeah, that's about it. And now I'm gonna move on to the last one, which is only just a refine. It's Lyon. So we all know what Lyon got as a refine. It's a wonderful weapon called Colorless Advantage. 2-3 months after it was already useless. Oh great. So what I did with it is completely change it. There's not much else I can really do with the void, so I made it extra big. Yeah, so it's essentially an alto, which is what most people run on Lyon for very obvious reasons. Why? Because he has really good bulk in def and res, and his attack can definitely be improved. That's kind of just the best thing you can run on him, really. So I also kind of wanted to hit 25 might. So 14 might plus 6 because 3 people are around you, plus 5 with the attack res bond. That's 25 might, which is the amount of might that the weapon had in the original game. Now, that was completely per chance though, but the reason why I went with attack res bond is because attack def bond is a seal. You can combo attack def bond and attack res bond here. So essentially with 2 people around you, you are hitting 62 attack, 35 def, and 39 res. And if on top of this you have, say, legendary Ephraim on the team, and it's a fire season, that's an extra 4 def. So 39 def, 39 res. Def res tactic would make that 45-45. You get the idea. And on top of this, I made the weapon effect based on sword and lances, obviously referencing Ephraim and Erica. It's pretty self-explanatory. Yes, it is just a bond skill, but the thing is, unlike usually when they're like, ooh, here's a bond skill, and nothing that really combos into the bond skill, this is an alto. It's meant to have characters around them, so the bond skill make more sense. Just kind of see like how Lyon was always the weakest of the 3, and you basically have Erica and Ephraim pushing him to get better, essentially. That's kind of the way I wanted to get around it. But yeah, how did I do? Do you like those refines? Or do you wish I changed some things? I'll be reading the comments, obviously. And if you want to give me an idea for more characters to cover, obviously you can just leave it in the comments. I'm going to most likely make one of these per month, maybe. It really comes down to how much time I have. We'll see down the line though. I really did enjoy making this because it forces me to be a bit more creative. Honestly, it's kind of because of Gas that I did this, so special thanks to him as well. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. So, have a nice one, y'all.